University and a 2016 and 2017 graduate of Apex School of Theology. She is an internationally licensed and certified alcohol and drug counselor, clinical supervisor, and sex offender treatment specialist. In 2010, Dr. Kendra established Metamorphosis, a Christian counseling organization whose mission is to utilize a holistic approach to inspire others to face their fears, giving voice to their present truth and empowering them with the tools to heal and recover with dignity. As a result of working with Dr. Kendra, individuals are inspired to embrace all of their life experiences, but as a student, not as a victim. Dr. Kendra is also a published author of Christian and self-help books, which can be found on Amazon.com. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Kendra Davis Burke to Somewhere in the Middle with Michelle Barak. Thank you, Dr. Kendra, for coming on the show.
Well, hello. Thank you so much again for having me and this awesome opportunity to share with wisdom and knowledge to all of those that's on the audience on tonight and those who will be calling in. I do appreciate this opportunity to be a part of this awesome venue.
Well, thank you. I had so much fun talking with you when we spoke. I think it was like late November, early December, and you just had so much energy, vitality, and the work that you're doing is really cool. And I just wanted to get to share that with the audience. And so you asked me for, hey, do you have any questions for me? And I don't really structure the show that way. I start out the show with 2 questions, and that really feeds the rest of the show for me. And so I'm going to ask you those 2 questions because I think that they lead right into what you're doing and why you do it. Okay. So here are my 2 questions. Ready?
Yes.
All right. Dr. Kendra Davis Burke, who are you? And how did you become who you are today?
Well, I describe myself as being an agent of change. I believe that I use my life experiences, that's the good and the bad, all inclusive of the things that I have gone through that have made me to be such an agent of change that I'm able to share experience, strength, and hope with others. And I think the most important thing that makes me so effective is my transparency and the ability to be real, to be raw, and to be relevant. I just believe in order to see change in people, you have to be willing to be transparent with them and tell the truth. So I think many times change doesn't occur because we don't have people in society that will speak truth and be honest in order to be that agent of change as a beacon of light. I know that as a servant, that's what my life is. I'm a servant to the fullest, that I use my experience, I use the light that's within me to eradicate darkness in others. And what has made me and brought me to this place is those ups and downs and those bumps and bruises, the mistakes I've made. So it's not just the successes that have made Kendra Davis to be who I am, but it's those moments when I was broken, those moments when I was broke, busted, and disgusted. It was those seasons when I was at my bottom that I had no other choice but to look up and to rely on my faith and my relationship with God. That is those things that have made me who I am. So I'm a product, not just of my environment, but I'm a product of those individuals who have served as a mentor to me, who was not selfish at all, but willing to share their platform, share their wisdom and their knowledge with me. So I try to be what Mahatma Gandhi talks about, being the change that I want to see in the earth. And the way I do that is by serving people and serving worthy causes in the earth.
Wow. That is such a powerful statement. And I want to, a couple of things just like jump out at me. So, I jot notes here. And so I've got a couple of things I've got starred. You said that you are a servant.
Yes.
Who do you serve and why do you serve them?
Well, I know the target population, I'll call my tribe, is those individuals who've experienced rejection, abandonment, individuals who what society or others may not always see their potential in. And why I advocate for them and fight for them, because I remember what it was like being the underdog and somebody advocated for me. And many times folks won't invest in what looks like to be a crashing product, or they don't invest in stock that doesn't look like it's going to bring in dividends. But I invest by serving others, by empowering them with resources and tools that they can live their best life, and that they can tap into the strength that's on the inside of them, and to realize that it's not how you start, but rather it's how you choose to finish. And so I choose to help people to help themselves. So I'm just inclined to believe that if I help you with information and with knowledge, and you apply that information to your life, then not only will you be able to survive for today, but I'm giving you something that's of so much immense worth and value that you can live and survive for a lifetime. And then hopefully in return, that individual that I have served will then take those tools and resources and serve others. So it's somewhat like the butterfly effect, that those small changes will make a big impact. So those small changes, those small investments, if it means investing time, investing a smile, investing a positive word, a word of encouragement, investing a prayer, that could be the very thing that can make or break someone. So I advocate for individuals who are broken and rejected. I also serve individuals who are addicted to drugs and alcohol, individuals who have been affected by mental illness. I advocate for offenders and ex-offenders, because I just believe everybody deserves a second chance to make a first impression. So there are many individuals, perhaps they've never committed a crime or have never been locked up, but God knows if it wasn't for the grace of God, there go I. So I advocate for those individuals, men and women who have been incarcerated, that they will have an opportunity to be brought back into society and be rehabilitated. But the truth is, when we really get honest, some of the folks that I advocate for have never been habilitated, that perhaps they, what society would say, that they grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. And it seems like that they have just lived a hard life. So I just believe if I can just inspire them and to motivate them to start where they are and begin to see themselves like a seed. So when I say like a seed, to see the seed of potential on the inside of them, and then they begin to take the dirt and begin the dirty situation, the dirty things that was thrown on them. And then when they get to that place and begin to offer gratitude, and to just be able to say the dirt in my life was necessary to germinate the seed of greatness on the inside of me. The bumps and the bruises in my life was necessary in order to provoke me, to reposition me. So when I start talking to people and stirring their faith up, and they begin to look beyond where they are right now, and they see themselves somewhere in the future, and they look beyond the past failures and see that yes, I can, and yes, I will, then I know that my serving and my living has not been in vain. So it's my goal and my desire that my fingerprints will be left on the life of some broken soul, some offender that society said that they would never give, they would never be anything, that they were just going to always be a menace to society. So I choose to advocate, and I choose to serve for them. I choose to serve for individuals who at times will never be able to repay me, but I serve them out of truth and authenticity, and I invest in their lives, invest in their futures, because I believe that what's to come for them is better than what has been.
Wow, that's awesome. And, you know, you mentioned working with offenders in particular, and that is something that has really just I don't want to say it's popped up on my radar, but it's become much more of a focus of mine, or an area of concern that I have seen. And I wonder, in your work, what have you found to be the conditions that you find a lot of folks who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated are in, and what may be part of their struggle in terms of getting back into society and kind of stabilizing and developing a new life for themselves?
I believe it's the mindset and the mentality. So when we talk about offenders and their desire to break the cycle of recidivism, which I know to be crime and punishment, many individuals are doing the best that they can with what they have. So when we start looking at pro-criminal values and pro-criminal associations, so sometimes as sociologists, when we try to understand the mindset of an offender, sometimes you may judge and you may look at them and say they could have did better. But But when you look at someone who grew up in foster care and group homes and, one thing after the other, many of them have been doing the best that they could with what they have. But it takes someone that comes along that's able to look beyond their faults and look beyond their character defects and begin to show them a better way and to begin to give them hope for the future. Because when I'm working with my guys and my ladies in the prison settings, I tell them, if I can get this in your head, you can get it in your hand. If I can show you how to get your mind right, how to mind your mind and start thinking on another level, then you'll be able to obtain absolutely anything. I just simply believe that nothing stands in between a person who is focused and who is determined. And then I also think, in addition to mindset being a hindrance, I also think preparation. Many times some people are sitting and waiting and blaming other people that it's the white man's fault, it's this man's fault, it's that man's fault. But I'm saying, boo, you are your own rescue. You have the ability to rescue yourself. When you make a decision to get up and to show up for your life, it doesn't matter how long your criminal record is, because everybody with a criminal record is not still struggling in that same mindset. So if I can build their mind and build their thinking, but most importantly, build their spirit. If you can get to the spirit of a man, a broken spirit produces a contrite heart. So if I can get to that broken spirit and begin to perform what I call spiritual CPR, and I begin to use, if it's the word of God or use encouraging thoughts or just use poems and just being present in the moment with that person and being able to empathize with them, I'm able to breathe life into them. And it's almost like that 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 3,000. And sometimes people just need to be in your presence so they can absorb your energy and they can absorb the hope that you have on the inside of them. And that's when they begin to see that possibility is on the other side of this struggle. And then they'll have a desire and a drive to start preparing. So I tell folks, don't tell me you're going to start a business if you ain't got no business plan. Don't tell me you looking for a job and you ain't updated your resume. Because I just tell folks, I just believe that success is when opportunities meet a prepared person. So if you go ahead and prepare your business plan, your resume, prepare your mind, then opportunities are endless and they got to come to you. So I just believe if you start thinking it and begin to manage your mindset, opportunities will begin to come, because the laws of attraction are so true. And we know that there's a proverb in the Bible, but also there's an author by the name of James Allen. He expounds on it so well in his book. He talks about, as a man thinketh in his heart. So if you can start helping people to de-weed the flower bed of their thought life. Because for some folks who've been broken and in poverty and incarceration, bound by addiction, it's so many dead weeds that's been planted in their mindset that it's choking the life out of their creativity. It's choking the life of possibilities, that they don't see anything beyond what's going on right now. But when you start giving them hope and giving them courage, they start de-weeding. They begin to be the master gardener in their own mindset. So with that being said, I help them to prepare their mind, prepare their thoughts, and look beyond what's going on right now and begin to dream again and begin to see themselves living on another level.
Wow. So now let me ask you this, because, everybody's had their hopes dashed. Everybody's had a dream they've been chasing after, and it seems so hard to get to. I really wonder, what is it that you can share about your moments when, as you said, you were broke, busted, and disgusted, that helps people resonate and connect with you who have been in these dire situations?
Well, I'm definitely a strategizer, that I help people to get a strategy. So I'm not one that you're going to send me an invitation to your pity party and I'm going to stay there with you. We got to come on up out of there. So I'm going to listen and assist, but then I'm going to help you to come up with a strategy, how you can change your life and how you can change whatever it is that you're struggling with. So I think there are some necessary ingredients for anyone who's striving to fulfill a goal or to live a dream. First thing, you got to have some resilience. So when I say resilience, I'm talking about have the ability to keep pressing, even when you feel like your grind is in vain, you feel discouraged. You got to have that resilience that says, even if I fail, I'm going to get up, dust myself off, and I'm going to get back in the game and keep trying. Then you got to have some persistence that no don't mean no. So one person may say no, but that just simply means that you're not my target audience and you're not who I am to serve. And then I say you got to have faith. You got to have that measure of faith to believe that what you have to offer, that whatever that goal is, if it's a book, if it's a business, whatever it is that you're gonna do, that goal that you have, you got to have faith to believe that what you have to offer this world, that somebody is waiting for you to get it. So you've got to have some drive and some passion about your spiritual baby. So I say your book, your project, your dream, it's your baby. So when you're pregnant with the promise, just like a woman who's physically pregnant with a baby, she has to begin to prepare and have faith that in 9 months or 3 trimesters that she gonna give birth to that thing. So whether it's a man coming out of prison, he's pregnant with a promise that he's gonna be successful, be able to take care of his family and no longer have to break the law to feed the law. Come on here, somebody. So when I talk about breaking the law to feed the law, many individuals that they can't get a job, they resort back to what they know how to do. Breaking the law for slinging dope, getting a package, flipping it in order to feed their kids. But when you teach a man how to fish, not only will he eat for a day, but he can eat for a lifetime. So it takes persistence, it takes some resilience, it takes hope, it takes some mental strength, not only physical strength, but mental strength and stamina that you will not be denied, you will not be defeated, and you've got to have some mentors. So I think it was Sir Isaac Newton that said, if I am to be great, I'm great because I stood on the shoulders of some great people. So you've got to have people in your life that will push you to the finish line. Some people in your life who will serve as your midwives, who will not allow you to quit. Some individuals who will get in the ring with you when you tired and call a timeout, but then call you on your stuff. You don't need people that's going to be yes people, because yes people are yes you all the way back to the bench that you ain't living the life that you want. So you need people in your life that's going to hold you accountable to your dreams, accountable to your goals. And I just simply believe that there are 4 types of people in this world. So as people begin to evaluate who's in your corner, you got the adders, the subtractors, the multipliers, and the dividers. So let me break this down for you, Michelle. So the adders are people that add to your life. They typically have something positive to say. They're encouraging, they're motivating. Then you got the subtractors. Honey, they like leeches, parasites, and ticks. These are the individuals that will latch hold to you and they'll suck and suck and suck. They'll suck you dry. As long as they need you, they right there. But as soon as they don't need you no more, they're like a tick. They didn't fell on off. You don't see them no more. You know, like a tick on a dog's butt. So as soon as that tick then got filled up, it's out of there. And then you got individuals who are dividers. Who are the dividers? The dividers are individuals who will break you down to your lowest common denominator. These are the folks who will never believe in your dream. Folks who will never, they're always going to try to talk you out of it. Well, why are you going to go back to school? Why are you going to write a book? Why are you going to start a business? And you got to be the person to say, why not? But see, the divider, if you're not careful, if you ain't got sense enough to cut them back, and if they tearing up your serenity and got you not living in a place of peace, then you got to learn how to cut the suckers loose. Because if sooner or later, if you start off, Michelle, as a strong 100, but you hooked up with a dividing 2 because they still got a poverty mentality, sooner or later your strong 100 is going to be a little old 50. And if you ain't got sense enough to get them off of you, your 100 was reduced to a 50, now you a 25, and then sooner or later you're going to be $12.50. And if you still don't cut them off, because some people, they're just so committed, it's a false sense of loyalty, a false sense of obligation, that they stay connected to people that they're really not in covenant with. They stay connected with people that's really, like Roberta Flack say, is killing them softly, but they ain't got sense enough to disconnect from that type of stuff. So then next thing you know, they stuck. I use little slogans when I'm talking to my folks. You stuck on stupid, sliding on silly, parked on dumb and sliding on silly. You wondering, how did I get here? Because you should have cut some folks back. So if you're going to get to the finish line, you got to evaluate who's in your corner. And then last but not least is the multipliers. The multipliers are people you may not even talk to them every day, but when you do talk to them, they have a way of stirring you up. They have a way of reigniting your faith. You believe you can do anything. Honey, you got a dream, a vision. You're going to have an ice cream truck. You done got your strategy. You're going to sell fudgesicles on the north side and Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry's on the west side. So you got to have some multipliers, the dividers in your life who will stir your faith up. And then sooner or later, you be believing you can fly. You can touch the sky. You start breaking the spirit of average. You start pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But it's only when you have people in your corner who will hold you accountable to your dream. And they believe so much in your dream that they ain't gonna let you die dreaming, but they gonna make sure that your dream and your vision comes to pass. I get excited. So Michelle, you have to stop me, girl. So let me just pause right there. Did I answer your question?
You did. I have no reason to stop you when you were talking like that, because I totally agree with you. I think it's really interesting too, because one of the things that I had to come to at some point in my life was that you can love people, but some people you have to love from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so because sometimes those subtractors are maybe your own family members, right? Or people that you've been friends with a long time. And you may just have to love them from a distance. It's not that you don't love them, but maybe they just don't have what you need, and you can't take that on board.
Yes, ma'am. I believe it was Rick James that said you gotta love them and leave them. You remember that song? Girl, bye. You gotta love them, but you gotta know how to say see you later, bye. I know how to give folks the benediction. Do you hear me? I put my right hand in the air and I wave it like I just don't care. And I say, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. Because I got a goal, I got a vision, I got something on my mind, and hooking up with you, I ain't gonna get there. So you got to know when to give people the benediction in your life. And it don't make them a bad person. So let me clarify that. Yeah. When you have to cut people out of your life, or cut people out of your business plan, or cut them out of your dream or your vision, it don't make them a bad person. But what it does mean is that their season in your life is over, that the chapter that they served as one of the characters in your life, it is finished. So you got to know when to say it is finished and when to move on and get to your next season. Does that make sense? Yep.
Yep,
Absolutely.
I agree. Well, and also it doesn't make you a bad person.
Right.
I think sometimes there's a certain guilt that you get, especially if you're dealing with, friends that you've had a long time, family members. Sometimes you get a little bit of guilt. You feel a little guilt for putting yourself and your dream first.
Mm-hmm. And people will try to make you feel guilty. So not even if the guilt doesn't come within, people will try to make you feel guilty, or will even try to play mind games and try to manipulate you when you don't do what they want you to do. You know what I'm saying? But you've got to take care of your own self. So, you know what's best for you. So I think when you don't have the ability to consult yourself, then you'll find yourself being a chameleon, getting in and changing your dreams and your desires to fit everybody else, because you're pleasing everybody, but then you're not pleasing, you're not true to yourself. So Shakespeare said, to thy own self be true. But when you don't know what you want, you just like that little lady on Coming to America, whatever you like, and you just doing what everybody else wants you to do.
The girl that jumped up on one.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy's hop up and down, bark like a dog.
Exactly.
Well, tell me more about the spiritual CPR that you perform. What would a program, like if someone is working with you, what kinds of things do you do with them to help give them the spiritual CPR to help them build themselves back up?
Well, I use CPR as an acronym, CPR. The C is, first of all, you may have to close some doors. What doors do you have open that's giving negativity access to you? What doors do you have open that's causing doubt to have access to you? So I help people to identify, how did you get to where you are? So we're sitting down having a conversation. If that could look like, I use art therapy, genograms, having people to begin to draw things out, and then I help them to be able to connect the dots. Because I like the topic of your show, somewhere in the middle, because sometimes people get stuck somewhere in the middle because they're not who they used to be, but they're not quite where they want to be. So sometimes people get stuck somewhere in the middle and they need a little direction. So in order to get that direction, sometimes we got to go back and visit some of the dark areas in their life. And I know it may be a little intimidating to them, but when you know you carrying light, and you know that the light of God and your higher power, and you're carrying principles, and that you're empowered in order to go to some dark places with some folks, you ain't scared at all. I don't know about you, Michelle, but I ain't scared of the dark. So I go into dark places with people, into their past, to identify some of those open doors. For some individuals, it was how they were raised, and it was the mindset of the people in their environment. So if you're going to do CPR, first of all, you got to help people to identify the open doors and then shut those doors. It could be doors in their mind, their thinking process, because some individuals believe that living from paycheck to paycheck is the best that they're ever going to have, or being dependent on Section 8 and food stamps and Medicaid. And I'm not trying to shine or clown nobody, because Kendra Davis was one of those persons that I grew up in poverty, grew up in public housing, was dependent on Medicaid and food stamps. And then when I got up in age, I was on Section 8 myself. But when I identified that this was a generational pattern, that my family had experienced these same things, it was because some people invested time in me that I began to close the door. So the same thing that people did for me, I do it for others. So I help them identify those open doors, and I identify those areas of vulnerability, so you can close the doors and that you won't keep repeating the same cycles over and over again. The letter P stands for prayer. Anyone that knows me knows that I am definitely an advocate for prayer and intercession, because I realize as a servant, there's not but so much that I can do. I am powerless over people. I'm powerless over their circumstance and their situations. But I know a man, I know a source that is greater than me, who endows me with power, who endows me with strength and insight. So I know when I go to God in prayer and I begin to intercede, He allows me to have insight and glimpses on things that I didn't know, and I'm able to know without knowing, and I'm able to see without seeing, in order to help people get to the next level in their life. So we help them by closing the doors, identifying those doors, closing them through prayer and intercession. And then I use affirmations to resuscitate. So I give people homework assignments like finding positive words and affirmations that they can say to themselves. Because I just believe it's not what you're called, but it's what you choose to say to yourself. Who is not what you call, but it's what you choose to answer to. So when you start answering and you start speaking words of life into your own self, and when you begin to look at yourself in the mirror, you may not be a 2, but you be the best 22 that you are. So especially with women, as they're dealing with image issues and self-esteem and not feeling like they're like this person and that person. But when you can empower people through affirmation, it resuscitates their faith, and it causes them to begin to see themselves the way God sees them. And they can say to themselves, "Self, girl, you a bad girl. You's a brick house. You a bad mama jamma." And you begin to offer appreciation for who you are and what you have, instead of spending time groping and complaining about what you don't have or what you don't look like. So with CPR, that could be a group session. So if it's a group setting, I perform spiritual CPR. I get invited to go places and to speak. I do group sessions at several halfway house facilities in the community. One of the halfway houses is for females, and this includes women who have come out of prison, women out of domestic violence situations, women struggling with drugs and alcohol. So women just with issues. So it's there in those, I do individual counseling sessions there, and I also do group sessions there. So there, spiritual CPR looks like one-on-one time that I'm able to talk behind closed doors in a confidential setting. And confidentiality is a big thing, because you know, in this day and time, everybody that you confiding in is not keeping yourself confidential. Because honey, some folks saying they praying for you, P-R-A-Y, are really P-R-E-Y, that they done took all your stuff that you just shared with them, out to the street and they shared it with everybody else. So confidentiality, if you're going to be a beacon of light and to serve people, people have to trust you, and you have to be trustworthy and not somebody who's constantly sharing people's transparencies and their indiscretions. So at that halfway house, I actually do that. At one of the other halfway houses, I actually serve a mixed population with males and females. So CPR there, it looks the same with groups, individual sessions, and then I also advocate and collaborate with other nonprofit organizations. So some of these organizations, I may go in, they contract with me to go in and to do professional training and development with their staff to build camaraderie with the team members. So for me, as that beacon of light, like I talked about, that change agent, my life is like CPR, that I'm constantly serving people on one platform or the another. So if it's in my professional life or my personal life, in ministry, I'm serving people and providing CPR.
Well, I am just overwhelmed. You know, I told you this before. I love the work that you're doing. And I'm also interested in the particular challenges that women face. Especially women who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. I would imagine that they have a unique set of challenges. Some of it overlaps with the men, but we know from society that women have slightly different struggles. What do you find yourself dealing with, particularly with women?
Well, especially with women in the correctional setting, there are definitely some disparities comparing women in correctional settings versus men. We know that in our society, it's the 21st century, but there's still a double standard. It's amazing. I just did a training this week. I was working with some counselors in the prison, and we were talking about women in prisons, and for a charge that their male counterpart may have committed, that male may have got less time on their sentence compared to some of the women. So some of the women get more time on their sentence. So I'll give you a prime example. Female was charged with writing checks, so fraud. So with checks, she got a 13-year sentence for writing checks. And that seems like a harsh penalty for check writing. But when I began to think about, now, if a male did that same crime, would they have gotten 13 years? And wherein I don't have the dog in the fight when it comes to the sentencing grid or anything like that. But when we start looking at the patterns, that some women are getting more time on their sentence compared to males. And then women have a whole nother set of issues in corrections than males, because they have their children to worry about. I know that they have fathers too, but women tend to be the sole provider for their children. So they have that burden to worry about who's going to take care of my children and housing, who's going to make sure that they're getting their medical care in school and, those sorts of things. And then, of course, women have mental health issues just like, the males do as well. But, women process issues and things differently. So in corrections, men may not exhibit the same level of emotions and things that bother them, but women are very open and transparent about those issues and things that concern them. And then when we start thinking about homelessness, when women, may come out of prison, or just women in general struggling with addiction and homelessness, women trying to survive on the street is a different struggle than a man trying to survive on the street. So partnering with homeless shelters and organizations to serve women and to make sure that they are prepared with insight and knowledge on how to meet those women's needs holistically. So not just to provide them shelter, but being able to provide a listening ear and to be non-judgmental and to be able to support them from a place of love and from a place of hope. And, just provide those words of hope, providing resources, because definitely women will need resources just as men. But, women, as women, one woman to another, sometimes we just need a sister. We just need a friend to just listen to us and to be there, to be present in the moment.
Well, and you know what I had read about recently, sometime last year, I read, and I hadn't even thought about this. Homeless women have actual different physical concerns as well about their, if they're on the streets, hygiene, for example.
Right.
If they're on their periods, what do they do? How do they get supplies if they're homeless and don't have income? All of these are things that a lot of times, those of us who, thank goodness, are not in that situation take for granted. Oh, we can just run up to the CVS, right?
Right.
But you can't necessarily do that if you're out on the street. We can go in and get a shower. And all of those things are even more sensitive, particularly for women who are of childbearing age and are still doing that stuff. So what kinds of resources are you finding are available to women for some? Do you know of any of these kinds of organizations that are helping with some of these things in different areas that maybe our listeners might want to be aware of?
Definitely. So even when listeners are listening from all parts of the country, the United Way is one of those organizations that's touching nonprofits from all over. So typically the United Way will be a good place to plug in to find some of those organizations. But here in North Carolina, we have different homeless shelters and resources specifically for women, battered women's shelters, and a lot of church groups, ministries actually have benevolence funds and women's ministries that actually provide support and wraparound services for women who are in crisis. And then when the rubber meets the road, many times people get in survival mode and they do what they got to do. So if that means resulting to crime, if it's, it's sad, but it's true. Many women result to prostitution in order to get their needs met, and males prostitute as well. But many women will use their body in order to get their needs met. And some often even rely on public restrooms in order to bathe, washing clothes on their hands. So there is resources, but then there are some resources that have somewhat dried out, and many women, they do what they need to do. And with this whole issue of mental illness in our country, it is such a big problem, but a problem that not enough resources are available. So we know that we live in a country that we desire to have health care for everybody, but for a person who's dealing with psychosis like schizophrenia, and they're having audio-visual hallucinations, and perhaps they're having all kinds of things that's manifesting as a result of their mental illness, or dealing with bipolar, anxiety disorders, the dissociative personality disorder. So people are struggling, and unless there's people who are trained and have insight that's willing to help walk them through the process, you can't tell somebody with schizophrenia, go down here to the local mental health and they're going to get you worked out. Because they may not even be able to distinguish left and right and north, you know what I'm saying, to get on the bus. And, so sometimes we need people to walk people through the process and how to navigate these systems. And even with women in the military and coming home from the military. So there's a lot of disparities, problems, issues, and obstacles. But we have to learn how to be that change. And if we can just help one person, and if we can just make the difference in one person, each one can reach one, we can begin to start making a change and making a difference in the people in our country.
Well, I have a question that has come in from a listener.
Okay.
And that question is, and they said, if it's not too personal, what was the event that occurred that changed your life and put you on this path?
Well, I actually grew up in poverty. Both of my parents were addicted to substances, and those substances led us to actually being homeless. So I can recall actually coming home and our apartment was padlocked. So my brother and I, we broke into the house, survival mode. We broke into the house and we actually climbed through the window to get enough clothes to last us for, a few days until my parents could figure this out. And we actually, we went and lived with someone else in the neighborhood. His name was Romeo Clayton. We actually went and lived at his apartment with he and his wife and their children for a few days. And then from there, my parents was able to get another place or whatnot. And then we ended up homeless again, because until you deal with the root of an addiction, you can go from one house, one apartment to the next, and then the same thing will happen all over again. So we found ourselves living in a house with no lights, no water, with rats that was big as kittens, roaches that dared you to step on them. And it was in those moments that I had to use the same thing that I preach and teach to other people. It's because I lived through it. And I know that I didn't have to become a statistic, because I actually went and I talked to a counselor and I told them about what I was encountering and what was going on in my home life, parents on drugs and addicted. And this one particular person said to me, well, if you have a baby, you can get $272, Medicaid, and food stamps. Well, I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but sugar, I knew that having no baby, if I was already struggling, that was not going to be the answer for me to go and have a baby. But many individuals can't decipher that, and they go and start having children in order to survive. But I knew that there was more in me to be done by me. So even during that season, it was a hard season, and God knows it was. But I thank God that I had some great teachers, because I learned a long time ago. That's one thing that my mother did teach me. Although she was in her addiction, she taught me that you're going to go to school and that you're going to get an education. So I knew that perhaps education was going to be my key to breaking the cycle. That education was so important. So wherein my brother's name is Kendrick. So Kendrick and I both, we grew up in the same situation. Kendrick decided to drop out of school because of the pressure and the barriers was just too much. So he dropped out of school and he took his own course with things, and he actually started selling drugs, ended up in and out of prison, that sort of thing. And he began to repeat the same cycles that my father did. So in addition to my father being an alcoholic, he oftentimes was in and out of prison, in and out of substance abuse treatment programs. So I got my first exposure to jails and prisons going to see my daddy. That first encounter of what an AA meeting was when it was family day at ARCA and family day at some of these treatment centers. But going through all of that, Kendrick and I took two different paths. So it doesn't make him a bad person, but he took what he had and he tried to make the best of it. But I knew that my life, that it was so much more in me. So I took a different route. Homeless, going to high school. I was allowed to wash my clothes in home economics. I was allowed to take showers in the gymnasium. But somebody believed in me. And then I got connected with a program called Upward Bound. See, I just believe that God will surround you with people who will mentor you out of the place of brokenness if you allow it. If you allow yourself to be teachable and coachable. See, at that moment, I ain't have nothing to lose and nothing to prove. I knew that I couldn't save my face and my butt at the same time. So I had to be willing to allow somebody to help me, because I didn't want to keep putting on layers and layers of clothes because it was cold and we didn't have heat and we didn't have lights. So I knew that in order to do something different, I had to become something different. So I got into this program called Upward Bound. And in that program, the director of the program, her name was Miss Addie Hines. Honey, Miss Addie Hines was no joke. She was determined that every individual who was in this program, that you was going to be somebody and that you was going to go to college. So see, are you following this story? I was a product of the projects. I got connected with some mentors who saw the potential on the inside of me and who wouldn't let me die dreaming, who wouldn't let the greatness on the inside of me stay stuck in poverty and stuck in Fairchild. So it was at that moment I took heed to the feedback that I was receiving, and to God be the glory. Not only did I graduate from college, went on to get a bachelor's degree, I stayed on the dean's list. Come on here. So I was breaking records. When society said the best answer for me was to have a baby and to drop out and to live happily ever after, there was some people that imparted knowledge and wisdom and seeds of hope on the inside of me. And I would go to church, and going to church even without my family, it was friends and family in the church who will hold me accountable and would be sisters to me. And those folks are still into my life today. So it's those experiences that don't allow me to be bougie. It's those experiences that keep me real, that keep me humble, because I remember what it was like to be homeless. And I remember what it was like to be broken and to go through all of those things. So because I went through and I was able to make it through, I just believe I got the keys that I can go back and help somebody else, that you don't have to be a statistic. You don't have to be a product of your environment, but that you can change the course of your life by beginning to take directions and reigniting your faith and to be who God called you to be, not who society says. So I hope I answered that listener's question, but it was my life experiences. And I'm very transparent. My life experiences, even in relationship, it taught me how to use discernment and my picker, because I've been in some jacked up, crazy relationships, but it was because of choices that I made. But it was only when the little girl on the inside of me, the rejected girl on the inside of me, when she healed and when she became whole, then I was able to make better decisions as it related to relationships. So I can go on and on, but that's the mini short version of what has caused me to be so passionate about my work, about my life experiences, and what I do. I know that it is my purpose to use my voice to empower others, to use my life experiences to empower others to live a successful and a productive life.
Wow. Well, I think our listener got the answer. That was a powerful testimony. I want to ask you, you mentioned the rejected little girl being healed. Talk about, if you don't mind, how that rejection, that sense of rejection, sometimes influences people to make certain types of decisions that could be detrimental.
Well, when you've been rejected, and rejection can happen from the womb. So rejection doesn't have to be something that you was rejected by a person. So the spirit of rejection, so I'm not trying to go too deep and theological here, but the spirit of rejection can actually come from the womb. Let's say if a mother was already struggling and she didn't want to have a baby, or the relationship who she was pregnant by, she didn't want to have this baby. And so that baby can be birthed in and out of rejection and in sorrow. And so then, you know, some children experience rejection because of who they look like, or they look like this person or look like that person. So then the seed of rejection is there, and it begins to grow, and it begins to grow out of control. And then the next thing you know, that person is finding themselves feeling rejected, and they don't feel good about themselves. They're not able to identify their own self-worth and value. And then they begin to attract people with other levels of dysfunction. They may be dealing with rejection themselves, and then rejected people will end up rejecting people, and then that level of hurt and the spirit of offense. So all of those things just kind of intertwine. But when you begin to start taking a moment and beginning to really understand that you're here with purpose and on purpose, like who was that? Miss Sealy. She told Mr. I may be black and I may be ugly, but I'm still here. So when you understand that you are here with purpose and on purpose, and you have an assignment, and that evidently God saw fit to allow you to be here. So even with your cute plump self, your dog self, short-haired self, whatever, when you begin to see that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, you begin to start healing. But then when you really begin to start believing it, and then folks start saying, she don't see herself the way that she used to see herself. Because see, I was looking at myself from the lens that I was the fat girl in the hood. You know, we would play little games, hide and go get it, and 1, 2, 3 red light and that kind of stuff. Because, you know, I was carrying an extra fluffy suit. So, you know, I couldn't run and keep up with them like everybody else. So I was somewhat rejected being a fat kid, rejected even with being the color of my skin. So living in poverty, you know, some even would reject you because you was a lighter hue or because you had longer hair. So there was several layers and layers and layers of rejection. So from what I was told with my mother's and father's relationship, just to give you a little background, my mother met my father when he was in prison. So he was in prison. He was working on the road squad or something from what they said. They fell in love. He got out of prison. They got married, lived happily ever after. Well, my father, like a lot of fathers in the world, was a rolling stone. So my mother had already had my brother. And then a few months later, she was pregnant again. She didn't want to be pregnant again because she was struggling taking care of Kendrick and my daddy doing his thing or whatnot. So rejection was something that was just kind of already just residing on me, a residue. So when I began to embrace who I was, because I struggled with rejection for a long time. And then when I began to understand my purpose and my destiny, I couldn't allow other people's opinion. I couldn't allow other people's thoughts or what they was going to say to stop me and to block me. Because really, Michelle, I had to embrace the fact that other people's opinion of me was none of my business. Let me pause for that for a minute.
Okay.
Other people's opinion of me was none of my business. But when I was spending my time trying to make sure I was pleasing everybody, was codependent, taking care of everybody else, but I wasn't taking care of Kendra. But when I came to myself and began to really understood that I had purpose and destiny, that's when I began to be healed and set free from that rejection. And I began to say, I am not rejectable. I am not rejectable, because evidently what I have to offer, my life, my experiences, is something of immense worth and value. And when I connect in the right environment, connect in the right tribe, somebody is going to appreciate the authenticity of Kendra Trevon Davis. Come on here, somebody. So when I got healed and whole, it wasn't until then. When I was broken and still struggling with rejection, I was still trying to fit in. But when I realized Jack is out the box and I am just my own brand, I am Kendra Davis. I'm my own brand. I don't have to be like nobody else. I can just be me. And in being me, it works for me. In being me, I'm able to help other people with being true and being transparent. So hopefully that helps somebody who's listening on tonight.
That is definitely a message for somebody. Somebody is going to definitely pull something of value from this call, this interview with you. You have so many wonderful just things to say and experience to share. So we're going to be wrapping up very shortly. So I want to ask you, if you had one bit of advice to give to someone right now who is in pain and who is feeling rejected, what would that be?
You are worthy. You are worthy and you're worth it. You're worth it. That when you understand your worth and your value, you may be going through pain. It's kind of like a dollar bill. So I'm holding in my hand right now, Michelle, a $20 bill. That person who may be hurting may feel like this $20 bill that you've been passed from one person to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. And perhaps to look at this $20 bill, all people see is that it's a 20, but they have no clue of the hurts, the pains, the brokenness in your life. They don't know the times that you was balled up, that you was left for dead. They don't know about the scars in your life, that when you hooked up in that relationship and you thought this was going to be the person and you thought everything was going to be happily ever after, and they ripped you apart and left you in broken pieces. And you felt like, whoever is listening tonight, you may feel like this $20 bill that's ripped up and part of your heart is still with them and part of your heart has got to move on. And you feel broken, you feel hurt. Perhaps you're listening tonight and you're feeling hurt because of a decision or betrayal or friends that walked away or something didn't go quite right on a job, and you feel like that you're still at the bottom. But even if you're at the bottom, if you can look up, you can make it to the top. And if you can just find a strength, inner strength, to know that you're worthy, like this broken $20 bill. If you can find the strength to begin to put yourself back together. Surrounding yourself with people who can identify, yes, you got some scars. Yes, you got some bruises. Yes, you got some bumps. But all you need, sugar, is a little scotch tape. All you need is a little CPR. All you need is a little experience, strength, and hope. And that's the scotch tape that will serve you and help to put you back together again. I'm reminded of a story when I was in Sunday school. They said, in case you're broken, stop by the potter's house. In case you're weary, stop by the potter's house, because the potter wants to put you back together again. So if you're broken tonight, if you're hurting tonight, there's a potter who desires to put you back together again, that he desires to heal you and to make you whole. And because you're worth it, because you are worth it, even with your mess ups, he said you're still worth it. Even with the difficulties and what they said about you and what they said was true, he said you're still worth it. Because you know why? This song come to mind to me, Michelle. It said, he thought I was worth saving, so he came and changed my life. Whoever you are tonight, you're worth it. You are worth it. You're worth the fight. You're worth the opportunity. You're worth it. So get back in the game and let's heal. All you got to do is CPR. Identify and close the doors. Begin to pray your way through it. And prayer ain't got to be some great big religious presentation. Just talk to God. Talk to your higher power and begin to allow his word and his presence to resuscitate you and surround yourself with people, because you're worth it. You're worth it. You're worth it. Any other questions, Michelle?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Well, yeah, I do have one more question. We are coming to the top of the hour, and we're going to be wrapping up. But what do you have going on right now that you want our listeners to know about?
Well, every Saturday morning, I actually it's called the Hour of Power. This is a prayer and empowerment call that I focus on the listeners' needs. So every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, they can connect with me on Facebook Live, or they can actually call in on a freeconferencecall.com. So that's every Saturday morning. You can always go to my website, KENDRADAVIS.com. So if you know my name, you know how to connect with me. I am Kendra Davis. That's KENDRA, Kendra Davis. Go to KENDRADAVIS.com. You can actually follow me, connect. I have a newsletter. So if you want to stay in touch and connect with me, and I have several speaking engagements. So I'll be at different places. I'm actually speaking tomorrow here in Forsyth County. The Forsyth County Health Department has contacted me to come and speak for their group. It's called Baby Love. So Baby Love is a program for women or families who may be in poverty, have children, and they just need a little encouragement, a little inspiration. So I am speaking tomorrow. It's a free event at the Forsyth County Health Department on Highland Avenue in Winston-Salem. I'll be there speaking tomorrow at 12 noon. So the best way for people to keep up with me, because sometimes I can't keep up with myself, I have to live by a calendar, is to follow me on social media. I am definitely a social media techie person that I will connect and stay connected with my audience, my tribe that I serve. So Facebook Live, the Hour of Power, and my website is the best way to stay connected with me, because I'm definitely on the move. And I just believe it's hard to hit a moving target. So you got to be doing something to make a difference and to make an impact.
So tell us your Facebook handle again so people can get to your Hour of Power. What's your Facebook handle?
Kendra Davis. Kendra Davis. If you just put in Kendra Davis Ministries, you're able to connect with me on Facebook.
Awesome. Dr. Kendra, thank you for joining me on Somewhere in the Middle with Michelle Berard. You are such a bright light and inspiration. Thank you so much for being with us.
Awesome. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Michelle.
Well, guys, that is our show for this week. You can reach out to me online at urbanbookeditor.com or on Facebook and Instagram as Urban Book Editor. Send me a note. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send in some topics you're interested in that you'd like
Dr. Kendra.
Yes.
Hey, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna bring Michelle in for a little post show interview. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Okay, I muted the lines. Thank you so much, Facebook family, for being here to go through this journey with me on tonight. I pray that something was said or done that inspired you, that motivated you, that encouraged you. You may be somewhere in the middle on tonight, but I just believe that my story, you hearing these people interview me, has been an inspiration to you. So I thank you so much for riding this out with me. Yes, I'm still here.
Kendra, that was so fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, Michelle.
Well, I am so delighted. Mama, I would love to see if I can connect with you and get you booked on a couple other shows. Would you be interested in that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to.
Okay, let me put some feelers out and let me reach out to you via email or I'll text you or something, and let's see if we can't get you booked on some more shows to promote your book and your hour power and everything.
Awesome. I didn't even get to the books tonight, Michelle, but I guess we just flowed and gave the people what they needed. But I'm more than happy. So if there's a particular topic, a theme, I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can.
Well, do me a favor, shoot me an email with the title of your books.
Okay.
And let me, like I said, I want to reach out because I have several shows that I might be able to get you booked on. So let me see if I can float that information and see if we can't get you booked, okay?
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. I'll be more than happy. And again, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to serve, your audience and those who are following.
No, thank you. I know that it was just perfect. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'll be in touch shortly. Make sure you send me that email, though, okay?
Okay, I will do it. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye-bye. All right, y'all. Well, it's all over now, but thank y'all so much. If this inspired you, if this helped in any way tonight, feel free to share, feel free to like, encourage folks to continue to use their life and use their story. You all know me, you all follow me on Facebook, and you know that I am just that 3R, real, relevant, and raw, and willing to use my life to serve others. So it's been my pleasure to serve on tonight in this interview, and I pray it has been a blessing to you, and that it has allowed you to bond and connect with me even the more. So as I continue to grow and God continues to open up doors for me, Facebook family, you all were here with me when KENDRA Davis was just that bootleg preacher that was just preaching here and there and everywhere. So I'm committed to take Facebook with me, that whatever platform opens up, I want you all to share that with me. So thank you for being a part of this interview segment on tonight, that I was able to touch some folks and to be able to make a kingdom impact and a kingdom difference. I'm not sure how many different states, countries that this Blog Talk Radio is going to reach, but definitely I just believe through the power of the Holy Ghost that somebody got help today, that somebody was helped and encouraged and inspired by the words that were shared on tonight. So feel free, inbox me, text me if you have any questions or comments, but hopefully I'll see all of y'all in the morning for the hour of power, because we are definitely going to have our time of prayer and impartation. And as I mentioned on this call tonight, if you're here in the Winston-Salem area, I'm actually speaking for the Forsyth County Health Department on tomorrow. They're having a baby love event that they've actually, is free and open to the public. They've invited me to come in and to inspire their program participants. So this will be women and men and their children, to inspire them with hope. And so definitely, I just believe, as being that agent of change and that beacon of light, the Holy Ghost gonna give me something to say to these people on tomorrow. All right, y'all. Good night. Love you, love you, love you. Thank you so much for being here with me on tonight. Bye.